Two positions, seven names, one big question. Do the Pirates have enough internal firepower up the middle, or is it time to look outside? Let's sort it out next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. Another week, another hotel room, and today, our positional review. This series where we build the Pirates 2026 depth chart piece by piece based on what's here. Second base and shortstop together. Why? Because the overlap is real, and the decisions here could shape the entire infield. Before we dive in, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So we're going to start with the locks and the likelies, and that would be like your Nick Yorke and Nick Gonzalez and Jared Triolo types. These three are most likely to be on the 2026 roster, or at least in the fight. Yorke is limited defensively. He's only a second baseman. You can play him a little bit of corner outfield, maybe first base. Left side of the diamond, I mean, we've seen them try it a few times now. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. And they have better options there, so I'm not sure I would do it. And yeah, you guys are going to call me on including Jared Triolo in this mix, but to me, it's important to leave Jared Triolo in this mix because I think you want to leave your options for where you spend your dollars to up or trade capital for that matter, where you spend that upgrade capital, because Jared Triolo having some flexibility gives you some options. I mean, this is a guy I think is going to make the team. It doesn't mean I think he's going to start somewhere in particular. I just think there's a few places he could start. Second base is one of them. And I would say that Yorke's limitation, what it causes most so far, we saw towards the end of the season. It's going to push Gonzalez to shortstop, I think. It's not ideal. I don't think it's ideal. I do think Nick Gonzalez is probably at least comparable with IKF, if not slightly better. I think he has a better arm. He certainly doesn't throw the ball like he's playing cricket, so that's an improvement. His range, he's a little limited over there. Jared Triolo is probably a superior shortstop, but Jared Triolo is also the best third baseman. So I'm not sure that you have the ability to trade those two and think Gonzalez can man third base just as easily. I just don't see it. Triolo offers that versatility in defense, but the bat's still a question. We're not sure yet what that's going to be. Power profile on all of these guys so far hasn't been great. It's not a death sentence yet because power develops, and it is a reason, though, to me, why you might keep your eyes open for a shortstop. If there's a way that you could swing one in a trade, or even if there's just a decent one out there that you want to sign. Now, I don't see that on the board yet, but crazy things happen in the offseason. I mean, to me, that's a reason to keep an open mind when you start discussing this. Defensively, all three of these guys can handle second base. All three of them can handle it more than at a major league level starter capability. And that should be expected because second base isn't a premium defensive position. But shortstop, on the other hand, I really think you have Triolo and you might have Gonzalez. And Gonzalez is really all about what level of trust you truly have in what he's done. I think he's got a good shot to hold down shortstop for a little while. And when we get into segment 2 and we start talking about some of the players that might push their way into this conversation, we're going to muddy the waters up even further. So I felt it was pretty important to go ahead and break these two up. And the reason I wanted to do that is because when you're doing this sort of thing, a depth chart in baseball, I think it's important to be really brutally honest with yourself. You're a fan of some players, right? So you have wishful thinking for what some of them can do and can't do. And I think when you put them into buckets that make sense, like these guys are probably going to make the league, there's all these factors involved as to why. It could be how much team control they have. It could be how much experience they have. It could be how many options they have. It could be, where they are on the arbitration scale. How many chances have they had? We will and have talked through all of those different things with all of these different players, but I just look at a landscape, and for the most part, I would think like a good 18 to 20 positions on this baseball team are probably not up for much debate. Now, they could always shock me and go out and like sign way more players than they really need to field a 26 man. And I'm sure that would be a nice thing to see. And if I see it, I'll be the first one to stand there and tell you I was wrong. And they certainly were going to go out and do X, Y, and Z on the market. But I think for the most part, logically, as I walk around the roster, I'm finding that mostly everybody's coming back. And I think the cast of characters, you're going to be left with very few Scooby-Doo mysteries as to who fits where. This is one of them. Shortstop. Shortstop is a little open. And I say a little open because you do have legitimate pressure coming. Again, we're going to talk about that in segment 2. But you also have something that really could work to start with, right? You really could get away with going out and getting a third baseman and moving Jared Triolo to shortstop. You could get away with Gonzalez at shortstop. You could start Yorke in the minors again. You could just say, hey, you're just not ready, bud. And start him in the minors, and Gonzalez is at second, Triolo's at short, and we just move on with life. And I'm wrong about the 3 that start with the team. But I think it makes all the sense in the world for these 3 players to make this baseball team. I think they all have roles they can play. I think they all can probably get within that 500 to 600 at-bat sweet spot. And I think you should be expecting an increase in power production, both from Jared Triolo and Nick Gonzalez. Now, is it going to be enough of a power production that I don't think you should upgrade? No. Unlike the other positions that we've done so far, catcher and first base, where I very clearly felt like we don't need anything. I do not have that same exact feeling here. I'll wait to give you my final diagnosis until we do segment 2, but suffice to say, one of these positions, I think, and it's pretty clear, it's shortstop, to me is a position where you could upgrade. I'm not saying I would, but I think you could. And when we come back, let's finally quit being evasive about it and get to why I feel a little bit queasy about going out and doing something silly in free agency. Not that there's a lot of options out there for silliness. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Money, 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 everybody. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Hey, let's talk about what I like to call the wild cards and the guys pushing their way into the conversation. So this should be fairly obvious to you, but we're going to name a couple guys here that I just think we have to think about. Doesn't mean that we have to think about them because I think they're going to push their way onto the roster from the jump and therefore the team shouldn't go do anything. But I think when you really look at the trajectory of Konnor Griffin and Termarr Johnson, it's going to be very difficult to get through 2026 without either of them or both of them debuting. This team needs offense. These are arguably their two top ticket items. Konnor for sure. Termarr's right there. Those two should probably push their way at least into having a shot to be here. Konnor Griffin, you're not going to hold him back with anybody I named. Let's just be real. If he's ready, and he's going to come play. Now, Konnor comes with his own versatility. See, Konnor can do a lot of things too. We just discussed a few weeks ago when we were talking about Konnor Griffin, all the different positions he could play and why they're trying him so hard at shortstop. Well, because if he can play shortstop and his God-given gift in center field, you're looking at a guy that can play, 7 positions for you. All around the diamond, probably. So this is a guy that doesn't come up here and have to immediately upturn the apple cart as we go towards talking about middle infield, because let's not forget that the outfield's not all that settled. So Konnor Griffin's a guy that could slot in out there just as easily. It's really going to come down to what they need when he's ready. And I would add one more layer to that. Konnor Griffin has the potential to be, a top 5 player at any position they decide to anchor him to. Let's say it's shortstop or it's center field, whatever. Or even left field. Let's say it's left field. PNC Park, maybe that's something they decide to do. Let's say that that's the route they go. Well, defensively, this kid is probably Gold Glove ready in center field. I think shortstop, he's got that kind of potential, but he's going to have to grow into it a little bit. I don't think he's quite ready there defensively. At least let's just say you'd notice some differences with some of the things he does with starting double plays in particular that I think he's got to iron out. Now, knowing him, he's working hard already on ironing those things out, but that's something that I think he's going to have to work on if he's going to be a major league shortstop. That said, the athletic ability is there. I mean, he can pretty much play the position. I'm talking nuanced stuff when I start digging into that. Now, Termarr Johnson, not the same situation. Termarr Johnson, we've talked about before. This is a second baseman or a DH. You're not going to turn him into an outfielder. Forget about moving him to the left side of the infield. He's way too short to try at first base. You pretty much are stuck with Termarr Johnson as a second baseman or a DH. Well, that doesn't mean you don't need his bat. But it does mean that something is going to have to happen to give that kid an opportunity, isn't it? You really have to think about what could happen. And what could happen is this team decides to start the season with, say, Jared Trullo at third base. Also, don't freak out about if you think we need to go out and get free agents for all these holes. Again, remember the premise of what we're doing here. We're filling the roster with what is here and pretending nothing else is going to happen, right? We'll talk about if we think that's something that legitimately could or should happen. But for the most part, the goal here is to come up with a depth chart. So when I start really looking at how things could work out, let's say it's Triolo at third, it's Gonzalez at short, and it's Nick Yorke at second. Well, Nick Yorke gets, a good half a season or so to really prove himself and if he can, and he takes over second base, and Nick Gonzalez is holding his own at short, and maybe those two kind of hold down the middle infield. There's no urgency to move up somebody like a Termarr Johnson. Again, Konnor Griffin, you might find another excuse for. His bat might just be that transcendent that those two guys being okay-ish enough isn't enough. Then you want to upturn that apple cart, do it. But Termarr's probably not in that class. Termarr's the guy that's going to get here, and I just think historically, watching his rise throughout the minors, he slows down every time he takes a jump. In fact, I wouldn't roll out him having a pretty slow start when he starts in AAA Indianapolis next year. And I would imagine he'll start there, but he has started slow at a lot of these different levels, and I could see that happening again. And in that case, there's probably really no pressure to do it. In that case, the thing you're thinking about with Termarr is just, okay, well, listen, we got to protect him from the Roll 5 draft at the end of the year anyway. So next year's his cup of coffee year. So be it. He spends a whole year or close to it in AAA, and no harm, no foul. The kid's still, 21 by the time 22, by the time he makes it. He's still a spring chicken, right? You don't worry about any of that. So no rush really on Termarr. But if his bat shows, let's just say it might not be enough. It might not be enough to get Termarr up here. And the reason I say that is because of what is in front of him at second base. And again, we're not even talking about if the team goes out and signs somebody. Say they go out and get a shortstop. Well, the congestion is just going to go up because now the competition for second base is extra crazy. The competition for third base, you might even be trying to force the issue and just, is there any chance that Nick can do this? Either Nick, you know what I mean? So, I think Konnor Griffin could force this issue into existence. Termarr Johnson probably got another year where you don't have to care. Cam Devaney brought in here in this trade. I don't think that this trade was big enough that it matters enough that you should think this guy automatically gets a shot. I didn't see anything. Defensively, I thought he was fine. He played okay at third base. That's not what he's been playing. He's been a shortstop. That's where they used him. So be it. I didn't see anything that disqualified him. I put him in this list because how could you not? He's going to get an invite to spring. They're going to give him a shot. They're going to let him try, and he's going to be 29 years old, and maybe this is a true bench guy. Who cares, right? Use him in the bench. Xiangxie Sheng got added to the 40-man this year. I thought he had a very disappointing season. He got a call up very early on in the season, and it didn't make any sense at the time. They didn't give him really any opportunity. I don't understand why they did it. And you really never heard his name again this whole season. Defensively, the kid's an incredible fielder. He's a younger Asian Alika Williams, it's what he is. A tremendous defender. The bat hasn't come along yet. He's already protected from the 40-man. I don't think they're going to have the kind of pressure where he should be in danger of losing that spot this year, but he could. He could be in trouble for losing his spot, but those two guys, I don't even know that they're going to get another crack this year. I didn't mention also Liever Peguero. I would assume he is non-tendered. I just cannot see holding up a 40-man spot for him. He has no more options. The team just refused to give him a chance. So they're either really, really right or really, really wrong. And I'm tired of figuring it out for them. I think Liover Peguero is gone. And I'm thinking about like anything else for second base that I might want to even see them try. We saw them try Spencer Horwitz very late in the season, trying to find a way to get Rafael Flores' bat in the lineup. And I suppose that's an option too, although I think that would be a gross misuse of Spencer Horwitz. I think it's bad for him. I think it's bad for the club. Those two, I just don't think. It's of course possible that an external shortstop is the way to go. I mean, if you really look at everything we've talked about here, Konnor Griffin has the most upside. And I mean, Gonzalez, if he's going to man shortstop, I'm sorry, I just don't think he's a true shortstop. You could look outside and then you could force these Knicks to fight it out for second base, which might actually make you a stronger team. You know, not everybody has to make the damn team, right? If you want more power, I think you're going to have to go that route. So you got to keep shortstop in mind as a possible place where you can add from the outside. But I wouldn't call it imperative. And I would think with Konnor Griffin coming, you at least probably don't want to slam that door shut. But his versatility gives you the ability to, if you so choose. You know, if you were able to fall into something, you know, like let's say like I don't want this guy, but let's say San Diego is trying to just dump salary and they want to dump Xander Bogaerts, and they'll eat everything that makes his contract scary to the Pirates. I don't want him again. I'm just saying, like, if that's a guy that you can go out and get and add some salary, and maybe he adds some pop in the middle of this lineup, and that's a better solution because now you can use Griffin in the outfield. You know, now you're filling two positions instead of just holding out hope that your rookie fills one. Those are the types of moves I'd love to see the Pirates take a shot at. Got a great AMA to finish this one out about exit velocity. I know how much some of you hate exit velocity. So let's have fun with this one. I think we'll be able to make sense of it for you.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It helps organize, especially streaming apps. There are so many of them, and they all have different times of the month where the money comes out, and they'll increase the prices on you without notifying you necessarily, or if they do, it's in an email you ignored. Monarch really helps with all this stuff. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you smash that subscribe, drop me a like, and hit me with an AMA. I really am trying to answer them as often as I can. Here's a good one I got. Gary, why do we have to hear about exit velocity every damn time somebody hits the ball hard? Ah, yes, the classic exit velocity fatigue. You're watching a guy hit 200 and the broadcast won't shut up about how hard he hits the ball. Listen, you're not wrong to be annoyed, but here's the deal. Exit velocity is like, it's like a spoiler alert for future performance. If a guy is consistently hitting a ball hard, even if the results aren't there yet, it's usually a sign that good things might be coming. So if you think of it like you're planting seeds, you don't see the tree yet, but you know the soil's fertile. You know what I mean? Like Oneil Cruz is the poster child for this. He might go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and then he hits a laser beam single for like 119 miles an hour, and everyone gets excited and freaks and really all it is it's just a way of illustrating how elite an elite tool set is. The rest, it's development. I mean, you don't want him going 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and you certainly don't see the exit velocity on that single and have yourself tricked into thinking that it's been a great night for Oneil Cruz. It's not about fooling you or anything. I would say as a Pirates fan, you're at a disadvantage for this because exit velocity does come up in every market. We talk about this stuff everywhere. It comes up on Sunday Night Baseball. It comes up on Friday Night Baseball, even when those dolts do it from Apple TV or whatever, that they have no clue what they're even talking about sometimes. I'm not even sure they've played the sport, let alone spoken about it. But they talk about exit velocity too. And the thing is with the Pirates, when you hear about it, it's in the context of everything the Pirates have been doing, which is 9 times out of 10 losing. So you tend to not be hearing about it as an addition to, all of the other things you've been hearing. You're hearing it more as something that sounds like an excuse for why you're not getting results. So I do get what you're upset about, but pitchers, on the other hand, unlike hitters, they want low exit velocities. And you don't hear them talk about this nearly as often, but they probably should. You want your pitchers getting low exit velocities because if they're not, they're getting tagged. So even if it's an out, sometimes that can be a sign that your player's getting fatigued, right? You want to hear that you have a guy that gets consistent low exit velocities. It's basically a pitcher's Yelp review. Low stars mean weak contact, and that's good. So, you have other things with pitchers too, like whiff rates and you can have some pretty terrible pitchers' numbers. And if you look at those underlying numbers, a lot of things look better. I'm going to start trying to go through some of these advanced analytics for you, like exit velocity. You teed me up for this one. This kind of just set me up for another series I want to do when we're all done going through the players and everything. But I want to go through these advanced stats, like, I don't know, once a week or so. This isn't everybody's cup of tea, so I don't want to make this like a something I beat you over the head with. But exit velocity is a great example of one of those stats that I think everybody's just either sick of hearing about or misunderstands to begin with. It doesn't matter if somebody hits a home run at 120 mile per hour exit velocity. It really doesn't. It doesn't count for extra. It's still a home run. All the things that you think and say are true. But the reason that it's cool to report, the reason that it's interesting to report, the reason that it makes sense to focus on is because in this instance, there are maybe 10 or 15 players in Major League Baseball that are capable of doing that to a baseball. And when anything is like that hard to do or a skill set that so few possess, well, I think we talk about it, right? I mean, like, I think you're just going to bring it up. it's a sexy stat, right? It's something that you can put up there and people understand miles per hour, right? At least in a North American market, you start talking about 120 miles an hour. Well, that's faster than I get to drive. You know what I mean? Like hockey went through this too. I don't know if you guys are hockey fans or not. I certainly am. If you are, check out Hunter Hodes over at Locked On Penguins. But if you're a hockey fan, you'll remember that they went through a little bout of this falling in love with advanced analytics too. And the main ones that got the coverage were like the miles per hour on wrist shots and snapshots and slap shots. And there were some defensemen who were getting paid gigantic amounts of money because of the exit velocity that they could put on a slap shot from the point. And it used to be something you just knew a guy could pound a shot and holy hell. Well, hockey analytics came to the rescue and they started measuring this and they started thinking, well, this meant like it was going to be a harder shot to block and it was going to be a harder shot for the goalie to react to and it's going to get through more often. And hockey was wrong. Hockey was wrong because that exit velocity is cool. But you have to have that exit velocity with something else that's super freaking important. You've got to have the touch and feel to actually get it through the minefield of players all the way to the net. Well, baseball's got to kind of find its next thing too. Like, it's cool that you can do the exit velocity stuff, but how about we just focus on like actually having wood touch baseball a lot more often? We've sold our souls to the god of, exit velocity. And I think that is where the stat probably has its name tarnished the most. And it's because of what it's actually created in the game of baseball. Searching for exit velocity and launch angle, if you ask me, has borderline destroyed the game of baseball. It's certainly not the game I remember growing up. It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it in the way that I used to. I certainly can't break certain things down the way I used to be able to. Now it's just, you're behind the eight ball if you're a team that hits for home runs or you playing a team that hits for home runs and yours doesn't. It is a stat that is important. It does get overplayed. And especially here in Pittsburgh, it often is the only good thing there is to mention on a given night offensively. So you're bound to resent it. But let's do some other ones in the future. Like I'll do FIP, I think, for pitchers, or WHIP. I think those are really important stats that we need to understand a little bit better, because ERA and wins and losses and RBIs, they probably don't get it cut anymore. You got to at least understand these underlying stats a little bit. The game has changed, and if you don't change your study guide, you're always going to be pining for something that isn't coming back anytime soon. Second base feels stocked. Shortstop, that's a little bit of a different story. The Pirates have options, but they also have questions. And if they want to take a real step forward in 2026, shortstop might be the spot to make a move. And hey, next time you hear exit velocity, just remember, it's not just nerd stuff. It's a glimpse into what could be. Let's go Bucks.